Hi everybody, I just have to share this because, look, the situation is getting well out of hand. Now, the whole nation is very concerned because Boris Johnson has been taken into hospital and is in intensive care receiving life-saving treatment because he's got coronavirus, or is it actually COVID-19? I'm finding it hard that, has he tested positive specifically for COVID-19, or is it coronavirus in general? There's a confusion that's been allowed to run rampant through the media and through government rhetoric, right up to the fact that they've produced a bill titled the Coronavirus Bill. So we need to understand coronavirus refers to all strains of colds and flu. So I want to know, for one, why we have a bill that literally strips us of all our human rights and gives the government and its authorities absolute power over every aspect of our being and lives, and even powers to remove children from our homes that can then be isolated from their parents, have no legal representative, can die in care, in isolation, and be cremated without any accountability given to anybody, and not even entitled to an inquest with a jury. Right, now to me, that is a really serious threat, all on the pretext of somebody being suspected of carrying or has been tested to say that they do have coronavirus. Okay? Not specifically COVID-19, but coronavirus. So basically, on the pretext that you've tested positive for, at the least, of having a cold, and at the worst, you may have, that may be COVID-19, but all they've tested positive for is coronavirus. So we now have a bill against the common cold, right? That's the fact of it. You know, we need to get a grip. We need to get a grip. And yes, it is very sad that Boris Johnson is in hospital. I don't wish the man ill. I don't wish anybody ill. But I do put things in context, because at least Boris Johnson is receiving life-saving treatment. My thoughts, my concerns are with the millions of people in Britain now, aged 60 plus, or with underlying health problems, who have all been informed by the NHS that they're not entitled to life-saving treatment. They won't be getting life-saving treatment. They won't be getting a ventilator. They won't be getting the care that Boris Johnson's receiving right now, because they're over 60, because they have underlying health conditions. You know, that's who my thoughts are with. And the people that are actually ill with any form of flu at the moment, who fall into those categories, who are being told they're not entitled to life-saving treatment. You see, that's where our thoughts ought to be. But this country is literally, it's suffering from mass Stockholm syndrome. It's got to be. We've got to be. And, you know, instead we should be extremely worried that just as this coronavirus bill has been passed, who do we now have in charge of it? Prime Nazi, actually, fascist, Dominic Raab. Whose ideology that he follows is all you can describe it as is evil, absolute evil, as is the coronavirus bill that now gives him powers even over our children. This is outrageous, you know. Now, in November, my friend nearly died. He was in hospital with pneumonia after contracting flu. My friend's mum died. I was very seriously ill with it, with a flu I'd never known before, a dry flu that left me I could hardly breathe. Okay? I stayed at home. Because, you know, in previous years I get flu. It's like, well, you don't go to your GP to infect people. You know there's no antibiotics for it. All you can do, I treated it myself at home. luckily has survived without having to go into hospital. I do believe that this COVID-19 has been around at least since October, November time, probably well before that. But we need to get a grip, don't we? Because everything's being hyped up out of all proportion. We're being told that hospitals have run out of body bags. How? How has the hospitals run out of body bags when on average 20,000 people die of flu every year? That's the fact of it, even with vaccinations. Because vaccinations do not treat all strains of coronavirus. Vaccines treat certain strains that can cause severe acute respiratory syndrome and lead to pneumonia. You see, those are the ones that the vaccines try to protect people from, and they're not 100%. There's no guarantee that because you've had a flu vaccine that you won't catch another strain of flu, or even the strain of flu that you've been allegedly vaccinated against, because, you know, viruses are very difficult to treat with a vaccine. But these are the facts. Now, if our hospitals are running out of body bags, then that is evidence that our NHS has been criminally underfunded. Doctors and nurses, medical staff, in fact all NH staff are at highest risk of catching flu, and they do every year. The NHS staff get very ill with flu. Some of them die of flu-related illnesses. This happens every year. Nobody's batted an eyelid. Nobody's asked any questions. My sister, aged 18 months, perfectly healthy, my younger sister, she died of flu. She got pneumonia. It killed her. She died. This is what happens. But nobody's asked questions about it before. Until suddenly, the BBC, the media pick up on this new strain, which is where it has come from. Even, we should be asking about that, because it looks like it was made in a lab. So this is something that's been inflicted on us by, apparently, according to the evidence, USA military. But look, this is the red line for 2020. Deaths, total deaths, including from COVID-19. Okay, look. It's down. It reached peak, slightly above previous years, because that's the average. That's the average deaths. Okay? Now it's on the downward trend. There. Actually, apart from that peak there, it's gone right down, hasn't it? Because here we are, week 11. It is right down. It's actually below average. So, you know, what is the fuss about? And here we go, Office for National Statistics. Look, all deaths 2020. All deaths 5-year average. We're under the 5-year average. We slightly peaked above it at one point, but look, now under. Influenza and pneumonia mentions for 2020 is actually lower than the 5-year average. So what is going on? You know, we need to be asking, what is going on? Now, I'm going to leave you 2 videos under this link. It's going to be this video and the video that I made exposing the very serious, dire implications of this coronavirus bill. And the fact that, at the very least, it's legally incompetent, and at worst, it's an act of fraud and evidence of a conspiracy to create an event through a pandemic. Because we're being asked to believe that this report was written in a few weeks, and it contradicts laws that have been very recently implemented by the government. This is a fact. So, you know, get a grip, Britain. We need to get a grip because we need to be asking questions. And yes, we do need to address this situation of coronavirus that's killing people every year. And why are we suffering from this? From these flu strains? And how are we going to treat them? But putting everybody on a lockdown and introducing bills that strip us of all our human rights and threatening us with martial law, well, you know, that is a serious situation, because martial law, even under martial law, we still have our human rights. Okay? But we in Britain now are facing the prospect of martial law under governance of somebody like Dominic Raab, who literally supports Nazi politics. And he's got the powers of the coronavirus bill. Such an ambiguous title that basically criminalises, makes people suspect because they've tested positive for any coronavirus, from the common cold to flu, to any strain of flu. You know, that's coronavirus. And as I've said, why aren't the BBC and everybody talking about bat flu and COVID-19 as they were talking about bird flu and HN1B or whatever it was called? Why is everybody referring to coronavirus when coronavirus includes the common cold and all strains of flu? Are we dealing with all strains of flu, or are we dealing with here the pandemic, allegedly, that's been created by COVID-19? And people are saying, well, Britain, you know, we were slow to act, we should have done what Italy's done. Italy's, despite its lockdown, has had the highest death rate in Europe. But even when you look at their death rate, it is actually not very much higher than average and the same as other previous spike years. So I'm going to leave you this link. I'm asking people to get a grip. And while they're shedding your tears for Boris Johnson, as I say, I hope that he recovers. I do not wish anybody ill or dead, right? But as you're shedding your tears for him, actually think about your fellow citizens, the millions of people out there who are sat at home now, worried sick for their relatives or for themselves because they're over 60 and they've got an underlying health condition. Shed a tear for the people that have been diagnosed with coronavirus, that could include COVID-19, who've been told, no, you are not going to receive life-saving treatment. So if you start developing breathing difficulties and what have you, just be ready to die, because you're not going to get a place in the NHS hospital. You know, that is criminal. Spare a thought for the hundreds of doctors and nurses that have been driven to suicide by the policies of Boris Johnson's government and Tory party. Spare a thought for the NHS staff who themselves are at higher risk every year under this Tory government because of the cuts that have left them even without masks or gowns. And now apparently they're claiming they're running out of body bags. How? How is the NHS running out of body bags when actually the death rate, influenza and pneumonia deaths, are actually lowest, and the death rate is lowest than it has been in previous years? Look, this is all deaths 5-year average. Okay? This is deaths for 2020. How is our NHS running out? Because they've got rid of all the staff and they've cut it down to its bare bones. The NHS has suffered a criminal attack, and it is criminal because people have died because of those cuts, including NHS staff. And we were asked all to stay in, ordered actually, not asked, ordered by order. That's not a request, it's an order. You stay in to honour the memory of the 2 nurses who lost their lives to COVID-19 very recently. 2 nurses. What about all the hundreds of nurses and doctors that have been losing their lives directly due to NHS cuts. So I'm going to leave you this link. I ask you to get a grip. I am sick to death. I can't even go on Twitter because I'm just sick of reading the sycophantic, absolute nonsense, just the lies people are spouting with each other, going on about social distancing. Well, you know, as I say, flu kills. Nobody's asked any question about it for years. Nobody's bothered about social distancing. Even though we've known for years that how many people it kills. On average, 20,000 a year. Peak years, as in 2014 to the beginning of 2015, you know, we're looking at 43,900 excess deaths. We're at 3,000 coronavirus deaths. And I've written to the NHS asking, can you be specific, please? Because we don't want to hear about coronavirus deaths. We want the specific analysis, the data for people who are passing away with COVID-19. Don't tell us how many people are dying of coronavirus, okay, because that is not specific. And I'm sorry, Tory government, we're not going to accept a bill that's so ambiguously titled the coronavirus bill that's referring to coronavirus and actually lies. I mean, there are blatant lies in that bill. I mean, just outright lies. These are things, that is serious. That is far more serious than anything that this new strain of virus is inflicting upon us now. And, you know, that's the message that I'm trying to get across, and that UK Column's trying to get across, and so many other people are trying to get across, because we are looking at tyranny here. And we're witnessing people being whipped up by propaganda and fear-mongering. And once again, we've got BBC at the helm of it. Look, you know, buy the media narrative. If that's what you want to do, you want to panic, you want to demand martial law with no rights, well, what can I say? This country, it's gone. It's gone. That's all I can say. If people cannot get with reality, if you cannot get with the facts, if you're going to allow yourself to be whipped up into a panic by the BBC and the mainstream media and this evil government's rhetoric, then go ahead. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself all the way to finding yourself in isolation, perhaps being experimented on. Who knows what could be happening to you? And you'll die, and not one relative will have seen you, and there will be no inquest, and they'll cremate you, regardless of what your faith is, you know. So, what kind of threat is that for Muslims who very strongly believe in burial and do not cremate their dead? You know, this is from an anti-Muslim government. Remember that coronavirus bill is from an anti-Muslim government. And using this virus now to give themselves the right to cremate the bodies of Muslim people that die of coronavirus, or, which does include COVID-19. That apparently this illness gives our government the right to deny people of very different faiths the right to bury their dead. It's like, no, and sorry, look, I'm sorry, this is just madness, you know, it is. And this moment in time, yes, Boris Johnson, I hope you recover, but my heart and my tears and my deepest concern is with all the people of Britain who've been told that they are no longer entitled to life-saving treatment. That is a Nazi policy. And the fact that this country is prepared to swallow it on the strength of fears about what? Pardon? Show me. Sorry. You know, go away, Britain. Until people of this country can stand up for their rights and their children's rights, I really have got no time. I've got no time No time for ignorance. No time for what? Xenophobia. This is medical xenophobia.